Here.
All right, that's awesome. So then we'll move down to item 3 on our agenda, public comments. We'll allow 15 minutes for public comments. If anyone has a public comment, you can raise your hand and we'll recognize. Going once. Going twice. All right, on to item 4, approval and adoption of the.
Oh, sorry.
Use the microphone for remote participants being here and.
Okay, thank you.
There we go. Sorry about that. Yep, getting used to this. All right, so now we're going to move to item 4 on the agenda, approval and adoption of the agenda. But first, does anyone have any revisions or questions?
I have a couple. Vice Chairperson Goldstein, did you have?
We probably have the same things. Go ahead.
Well, I have a couple of questions about item 7C and 7D. And so if we could just pull those for brief question and answer.
And if I have a couple to add to that, I think. I've got 7B, H, J, and K. So maybe we should just say we'll discuss item 7 before we vote.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Forgive me, Vice Chairperson, you said 7K?
B, H, J, and K. Yes. K is school safety officer.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so then we will move on to item, oh, well, first of all, is that right? We'll just go on to item 6 now? Or do
Oh,
we
well,
wanna have
all
a
right,
discussion first?
Well, I think you want us to approve and adopt, right?
Yes, so then we should have the discussion first.
Yeah.
Then let's have the discussion.
So
No, I think what I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, is maybe when we get to item 7, rather than it being precisely consent items, maybe we go through each one because it seems like almost all of them
Okay.
need some discussion.
All right,
I agree.
sounds
So-
good.
I'll move that we proceed with this agenda and that we treat section 7 just as a discussion before we vote.
I second that.
Okay, and I agree. All right, excellent. So now approval, item 5, approval of meeting minutes. We have minutes from our meeting on April 13th, 2023, and then our regular meeting. Those are our regular meeting minutes. So any questions about any of that?
No.
So then can I get a motion to approve?
I'll motion. We approve the meetings as those
Minutes.
meeting minutes
Yeah.
as they are.
Second.
All right, and I agree. All right, we'll go on to item 6, reports. Union, does the union have anything to report this week? All right. So we have nothing from the union. We'll see district. Do we have any district reports? And we got a head shake of a no. So then we'll go on to commissioners' reports. Commissioners, any?
I'm gonna save, in the interest of time, save what I was gonna report on until the next meeting. So
Okay.
I don't have anything for this meeting.
All right, I'll maybe just report on 2 things. One is, I think as most people who are part of the BUSD community know, there are BSEP community conversations going on right now in anticipation of BSEP coming up on the March ballot. And these are important meetings to either understand what BSEP does and how it's been performing, or if you have suggestions about the ways BSEP should change or what else you'd like to see BSEP do. These are good meetings to attend and be heard. I attended a meeting a few weeks ago, I think, at the adult school, and I see that the next one is on Monday, the 8th, here in the boardroom at 5:30, and would really urge anyone who is involved with the classified service at all to attend these, because BSEP funds many, many things. including programs and classified staffing. So it is in your interest to understand how it works and be heard. And then the other thing that I will mention is there is some legislation right now at California Assembly level, AB 1699. It was something that was introduced in February by Assemblyperson McCarty, and it introduces some interesting changes to process for eligibility for part-time positions at school districts. There's a lot of back and forth about this. I've seen it called anti-merit. I'm still researching it myself, but I would urge us as a commission to get more familiar with this bill and possibly take a position on it. It looks like it's got lots of stuff in it. And at my first read, some of it looks like a good idea and some of it doesn't look like a good idea. So it seems like the sort of thing that, might take a couple cycles to really become law and is worth weighing in on. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Those are my remarks.
All right, thank you. And I don't have anything this week. So then, Executive Director, do you have reports?
I do. As always, I report on the exams, and I just need a minute to tally up the rest of the exams here. I will, oh, did you do the totals? Yeah, I left my other one back there. Thank you. So we had, do you have 169 totals here? So a total of 169 total exams. 45 were in training and experience, 84 were written, 33 were oral, and 7 were performance. So again, that's an important number to recall for 169 exams. We had 15 hires. That is a mix of both, you'll notice both promotions, which we're really happy about. 2 were promotive, 1 was a reclass. And we had roughly 9 of those were new hires to the district. So we're happy to always report promotions and new hires and folks that are excited to join BUSD. Right now, we are working on what looks like the beginning of our year, moving into June. And looking at our plans. We're going to be looking at our exams. We're going to be looking at our recruitment plan, and we're ramping up. Aaron has already done a fantastic job of getting summer school underway, and we're very busy. Summer tends to be a very busy months for us, but we're excited about the new year, and that's what we're working on. And I know that I have a carve out for class and comp, so I'll talk about that next, as soon as the chairperson lets me.
All right. Okay, thank you, Secretary Castillo. All right, we're gonna move down to item 7 now, and so now we can discuss. Oh, 6E. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
No, I asked basically to make sure it was okay. I didn't want to just jump to E without you saying.
Oh, yeah.
Let's move it. Okay. So this last month was the conclusion of phase 1. Thank you, Sarah. Great job there of getting phase 1 underway. Phase 1 ran a little late. It ran late because I myself extended the deadline by 3 weeks to try to get more participation. We did end with 29% participation. And we got to a point where we were doing the review of the job descriptions. And the good news is that we saw this through. We got to the job description phase. It's not bad news, but the lesser good news is that there was a lot of very strong opinions about changes, or at least proposed changes to the job descriptions. So we met as a steering committee, and then we met with as I guess the executive team of the executive committee, which was myself, Jan, Aaron, to try to come to a place where the duties would reflect something that was a little more accurate. But the lesson learned here is that folks here, even in the steering committee, I would say some are maybe unfamiliar, maybe slightly distrustful. But we did remind them, and we continue to remind them, that these are going to be recommendations coming from Eric Hall and Associates. So nothing is finalized. Everything is still in draft form until it's obviously approved by commission and board. But the good news is that we're now drafting job descriptions and trying to get those reflected. Today, Sarah sent out the job descriptions to the employees in phase 2. So we've officially started phase 2. Phase 2 is somewhat crunched because we want to get it all done before the school year ends. So we have the summer to work on it. But so far, we are moving forward. I'm hopeful that phase 2 will have greater participation. It's looking good. It's moving forward in the way that we want it to. So again, it's mostly good news. And that's my report on the class and comm project.
Do commissioners have any questions?
I think we both do.
Excellent.
Okay. I had Mr. Castillo, I guess, one question and one comment. So the question is, at the last meeting, and you mentioned it just now too, there was a 29% participation rate, which, just offhand sounds pretty low. But I was curious, and I don't know if you got any kind of a response from Hall and Associates about this. How does that compare with other class and comp studies that they've performed in other districts? Is 29 incredibly low? Is it about average? Is it good? Is it bad? Where do we stand on that?
It's low, but not the word I think that was used was extremely surprising because of we haven't done it in a long time. So Jan's very hopeful that it'll start to get steam, but no, it's low, not extremely low, but low. So I'm hoping that we make up for it in phase 2. We can't go backwards, but my hope is that it gains a little more steam. And so far, I mean, we just sent it out today and we already have questions and people participating. So this is a good sign. So
Good.
One thing I wonder about, if I can add to that, is at the beginning of phase 1, there was some question about paid release time for employees to participate.
Yeah.
And if memory serves, we sort of did another round with supervisors explaining how that worked, that paid release time was permitted, et cetera, et cetera. Are you satisfied that got handled appropriately?
no, it did. And Glendaleigh's here, so she can speak more to it. But, HR was a great partner in this. They met with the union, they offered the time, they worked with the principals to make sure the time was released. We unfortunately just had some employees who just did not want to participate as much as we tried to get them to. So that's unfortunate, but.
Did you
Yeah.
have other questions?
I had a comment that came to mind, Secretary Castillo, when you mentioned that there's a lot of discussion about the job descriptions. And it strikes me sort of, there could be, and you correct me if I have a misunderstanding of the process. It seems that it's possible that employees or others could look at this classification study as sort of more than just, not just, but more than an opportunity to accurately reflect the jobs that they're performing, which I think is in fact what the classification study should be doing.
Yes.
But it's conceivable that people might think, this is also an opportunity to basically talk about the entire organization and talk about reorganizing positions and
Mhm.
talk about this position is unnecessary or this position it should be different from the other. It strikes me, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that that's not really the purpose of the class and comp study. It might be a little bit touching on those things, but in general, that's the province of the district
Yes.
and the province of the Board of Education,
Mhm.
and not really what a classification study would be looking at. Is that at all accurate?
No, I think you're accurate. I think your statement is on point. I think, you know, in leading this group and trying to facilitate this, I do encourage everyone to speak out. And part of expressing that opinion is everyone's experience, and everyone's experience is a little different. Two main themes arose from those discussions. One was a resistance to recognize that there may be a district industry standard that we should possibly consider. And in our first meeting, there was an overwhelming feeling in the steering committee that, well, no, we're Berkeley, we don't do things that way. And, you know, my answer to that, to the steering committee members was, well, this isn't an adoption of what Eric Hall and Associates is saying. This is what Eric Hall and Associates is paid to do. They're saying, well, our admin ones in SFUSD do this. Have you considered that maybe you can do this and you know, consolidate the, you know, so every idea at first was met with some resistance. And I think it's because there's a little bit of a feeling of the unknown. I've always done it this way. I don't know if I want to do it another way, kind of thing, as opposed to thinking, oh, well, maybe I should look at that. Maybe that is something that we should consider. So, you know, from Eric Hall and Associates point of view, they're just not offering us changes to the job descriptions that reflect the jobs that the work that's being done, but they're also offering, which I think is good, alternatives or to doing it, or maybe having us consider how some other districts are organized. And that might have led to the discussion of, you know, well, we don't want to be organized that way. So you know, upon reflection, we probably should have kept the conversation a little bit more focused on the task at hand, which was the job descriptions themselves. But we did get into, well, the admissions office at SFUSD does this, and the admissions office in Oakland does this, and that kind of led the conversation into a different, more kind of macro or global discussion. So, you know, part of our challenge is to navigate, readjust as we're getting feedback. So we're in that phase now, Izzy. Like now we know through phase one what we can kind of streamline to get better results and better participation for phase two. My hope, and it's not in the contract, but my hope is that at some point, possibly, and again, this is the optimist in me, that we could circle back to some of those phase one job descriptions that weren't done. Maybe we can come back as a part of a greater recommendation to look at those again, because I do know one thing for certain. We do have Eric Hall and Associates on contract through November 30th, but all indications point to meeting and conferring. I mean, the unions are going to meet and confer with Glenda Lee and Samantha over these effects for a while. So, you know, that might be an opportunity to go back to phase one employees who didn't participate. Again, my hope. That would be on us. That wouldn't be on Eric Hall. But we could take what Eric Hall said in the form of their recommendations, and we have every ability to go back and say, well, they recommended this. Maybe we want to look at this. So that's my hope, is that it's not over with phase one, and that we can move forward in a better way.
Thank you for that.
Could I also suggest, or maybe get clarified, the work of EHA
Mhm.
is, to look at our jobs, the questionnaires, the
Mhm.
job descriptions, check for the match, or the gaps and
Yes.
talk about those. There's a different track that probably involves a subset of your steering committee, not everyone, but it's really the org dev discussion.
Yeah.
And, typically HR and senior management owns that.
Mhm.
And I am really glad to hear actually that suggestions about how things work in other districts are being floated. Not because we expect anybody to say, hell yeah, we're going to do this, but, to hear this and maybe prepare for a later discussion, which is, have we heard enough to suggest
Yeah.
that we ought to be looking at
Yeah.
how the organization is set up and change some things.
Definitely. And I'm glad they offered that too. I was not, I don't represent the majority of the steering committee, obviously, but there were a few of us that were like, oh, well, that's a great idea. So yeah, that's my hope as well.
But that's really not a defined part of the study. That would be a separate track, right?
They're offering it as part of this, it's not highlighted in the contract per se, but Jan will say things like, the registrar at such and such district isn't at the high school, they're over here. But other school, so she'll kind of give us a sense of what all the other districts are doing, possibly to plant the seed, possibly to say, well, this is why we're recommending these things more. And their approach obviously is, what do other districts our size, what are they doing? Because that also informs their recommendations for job descriptions. It isn't only the employee is doing this, the supervisor thinks they're doing this and they approve of this. That would be very simple and straightforward. They're saying, yes, these are the changes. We hope that this reflects what your feedback said. And by the way, this district is doing this way. So they're offering that.
I think that's a valuable.
I think so
offer.
too.
I hope
I think so
we're
too.
able to influence the right parts of the oversight committee to take them up on that.
I agree. I agree.
Was there anything else about the job description feedback that it was notable? I sort of got the feeling maybe it was from employees.
Well, when we got, so for the job descriptions, for instance, at the next meeting, you're going to have 3 reclassifications that came out of phase 1. And that came about from a very clear, and this isn't my word, this was Jan's words. In the 3 reclasses, for instance, there was an egregious number of duties that were way outside their job. To a lesser extent, there were a lot of job descriptions that were missing 1 or 2 things, or they weren't worded accurately for the job that was being performed, right? And that's where it gets tricky with folks because they feel they own that job and they're the experts. But to answer your question, I think that the substance of the jobs for the folks on the steering committee became very personal because they feel, and rightfully they feel, that they're the subject matter experts, if you will, not just of their own jobs, but the folks they work with and how they interact. But all the job descriptions, some more than others, and we reviewed them, by the way. So after the steering committee met, Aaron and I and Sarah, we looked at all of them again, and we gave our feedback to Jan. And then we had a final meeting with Jan to say, well, no, I know that the employee wants this out of their job title, but I'm not going to recommend that to the commission, so that's, it was, there was a lot of there, let me put it that way. There weren't any job descriptions that were glossed over. They all had some feedback and some were just painted in red, from beginning to end.
I think what I like about what you're describing is that all these things that come up, whether they needed tuning or whether someone said, I really wish this wasn't part of my job.
Yeah.
These are all the rough spots we're going to have later,
Yes.
laid out for us, totally clear. And
Yes.
we ought to be keeping a record of that because those will come back.
Definitely.
Right.
And the three reclasses, had these employees recommended, had these three employees requested it, I would have agreed. However, the group, EHA was able to do the deep dive in a way that wouldn't have.
Hmm.
Because these are, again, keep in mind, these are three employees that have not been before us. They were just honest about their feedback on their form. And actually, one of them didn't even want to do the form. One of them didn't even want to participate. So when she found out she's being reclassed, she was like, well, I'm glad I participated, kind of thing. So there's I guess meat to all this. We're now going to see in June the 3 reclasses, when we can hopefully get through some consensus on the proposed job descriptions. I'll share that as well. But at the very least, I'll have 3 reclasses for you for the June meeting that came as a result of this phase 1. So.
Can I follow up on that, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
Mr. Secretary, are you saying that for the entire phase 1 group of classified employees, there are 3 reclasses? Or is this just phase 1 of the reclasses? Or do you know?
For phase 1,
Yes,
there's 3 reclasses.
I see. Okay. And then the other thing is, speaking for myself, I would hope that we would be able to hear sort of all sides of the debates,
Yeah.
so to speak. There may not be any debate on some of them, but I'd be interested in knowing, what does the union feel? How does the
Mhm.
union feel about a particular the reclass that you're going to bring forward? How does the employee feel? How does the district feel? Any other? What was there an opinion by the steering committee on it? I'd sort of like to, we're kind of a little bit in a vacuum here. We can't participate in this study. We can't be at the meetings and all of that. So I, for one, feel like, I'm at the mercy of whatever is brought to me at the meeting. So I'd like it to be as much as possible.
I have 2 suggestions. One would be that at the next meeting, we possibly have, I can ask Jan, I can ask BCCE, and I can ask maybe either Rhonda or Malika, and that would represent Confidential's, BCCE, and the Class and Comp group to just share their own thoughts, maybe individually, and that might give you, because I could speak for them. I could tell you the feedback I received, but I would be speaking for them. You're not hearing from them. So I might suggest that if that works for you in the June meeting, or do we want to wait?
Maybe as a special
Okay.
meeting.
Special meeting?
I like that idea, just as a,
Okay.
a midpoint check-in, just to hear from folks. What's, start, stop, continue kind of thing. What's working well, what needs attention, and, what, new ideas do they have now that they're in the middle of it?
Okay. Before we convene tonight, we'll throw some dates out so we can get a special meeting on the books.
Sounds good. Any more questions I just have one question. Just going back to the participation piece. For phase 2, were there any new attempts at getting more people to participate than what we tried in the first phase?
I think we're doing the same thing we did in phase 1.
Just starting.
Yeah.
Support report that all of the phase 1 and phase 2 employees have been invited to an orientation session next week, as have the supervisors in phase 2. And the feedback from the invitation has been already a lot more than what we did in phase 1. So that feels positive.
Okay. I know.
Or maybe we can repeat.
I can
what-
repeat,
what
yeah,
Sarah said.
Yeah. We just sent this out today. I think that, like in phase 1, there's an invitation out to the employees and the supervisors. That meeting is going to explain the process. I can report that we already have participation from a couple of employees and we just sent it out this morning. What am I missing?
Today, phase one employees were the revised job descriptions, asking for them to review them and to approve the changes.
Oh, for phase one, yeah. Did everyone hear that?
The folks on Zoom probably.
Okay. Yeah. So what Sarah just said was that we sent the phase one job descriptions with the revisions back to them to try to finish and get consensus on phase one. So there'll probably, Commissioner, there'll probably be more feedback on that once they get it back. Our hope is that there is consensus, at least for the majority of the job descriptions, but I guess we'll find out.
Thank you. All right.
Can you guys hear me?
Mildred has her hand up.
Mildred has her hand up, but did someone else just speak? Well, that was that Mildred? Okay, yes, Mildred.
Are we
Sure.
calling on her now or are we gonna wait for? It's the chairman's call. I mean,
Let's go ahead and find out what, so we'll have Mildred and then Frank, but can we keep it brief so we can move through the agenda?
No problem, sir. I was just going to talk regarding the classification study since you were on that topic, but I don't have a problem waiting. I apologize. I just came in, so I didn't know what part where we were on the agenda, but I can wait, sir. No, I'm sorry. It's just that I'm not there in person, so I didn't know if you guys can hear me or see that my hand had been raised, I'm sorry, for a while, but I can wait. Thank you for addressing me.
Frank?
Yeah, I just want some clarification. I'm not part of this study. I'm in the next phase. I haven't even looked at it, but I haven't heard that this is going to be negotiated with the union BCCE. Will the job descriptions in the three that you mentioned, will that be negotiated through BCCE, or is that just going to go directly to the board? That's what I thought I heard. But correct me if I'm wrong. That's the school board, I mean.
Frank, is it a process question?
Yeah. So I heard you say that after the process is done with the job descriptions, you're going to take it to the board to have it finalized, that this is only a draft. But I
No,
never heard a step that it would go to the union also.
well, meet and confer implies union. Maybe I can just clarify, because I think
Yeah, thank you.
sometimes when I say things implicitly, folks fill in the blanks inadvertently, not the way I intend. So right now, these are all recommendations from the classification compensation study group. Everything is a recommendation. The steering committee then reviews the recommendations. The steering committee can then say, we agree with all of these recommendations. The union at that point can say, these three jobs just don't work for us. And they set them aside and they can meet and confer with the district on them because there's no consensus. I mean, at the end of this process, Frank, I'm not going to tell the union or the district what to do. It's really the recommendation. The union can then say, we want to meet with the district about this because we don't agree. And I can be there to facilitate, but that is definitely up to the district and the union to meet and confer on it. And it would be the effects, right? This job changes so much that we don't agree to it. We haven't even gotten to the compensation piece, which is at the end of this. It's in phase 3. So we haven't decided on timelines for this. I have not talked to Samantha or Glenda Lee about that. we are just trying to organize right now to present before the steering committee and the employees what they can agree to in regards to the recommendations. But that does not, there's no part in anything I said that says that you don't have the right to meet with the district. I kind of expect that. And I may have said earlier that this is all subject to meet and confer at the end. So I just want to be clear. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's what I just wanted some clarity on. I didn't
Okay.
hear. Thank you.
I hope I clarified. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Secretary Castillo. All right, we are going to move on to item 7 on the agenda, the consent items, and I know that we had some questions about several of them. And so I'll let you rock, paper, scissors, commissioners, who wants to go first?
Maybe we should just go in order of
Okay,
the
let's do
list.
that. All right, so administrative assistant, so that's 7A, administrative assistant.
Well, it appeared that I didn't think that anybody had any changes or questions about administrative assistant 1. So if I'm correct about that, then I would move that we approve that eligibility. letter.
Excellent.
Mhm. Do we want to approve them one by each? Is that? how-
Why not?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I agree.
All right, I agree.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so then that takes us to 7B.
So the question about, my question about 7B, H, and J is that these were recruitments where we came back with 2 ranks. And I know that these are all in one form or another, I think, things where we have tried to recruit before, where it's hard to recruit. I'm just interested in hearing a little bit about what are we doing to recruit differently? 2 ranks is better than 1 rank. That's good. What else are we iterating on to try to build the pool on these?
Well, I mean, Aaron and I had discussed this. I mean, we do plan to expand the recruitment plan as a whole, but I know right now, Aaron is getting creative with ZipRecruiter and some other postings that we're hoping attract more, and it is resulting in some of the recruitments, not all. Aaron, I don't know if you want to speak more to that, but no, okay.
The reason I ask is later we're going to talk about our budget.
Yes.
And one of the things we're asking for is more budget for
Mhm.
recruiting. So I'm just hoping to get a real life idea, for things like this. What else would we do, with more money?
Well, so I can answer that now. One thing that we have talked about is not just expanding the current recruitment social web, I guess is a way to say it, or the social net. But looking at what's it called? The job fairs that are in person and networking there. I was talking to Mark, who's one of our security officers, on possibly doing something in the summer. So we're looking at doing in person. Aaron and I are looking at doing in person. We're also looking at social media on our own webpage. Our webpage is sorely lacking, frankly, and expanding on that and making sure that we're working with our partners, NeoEd, NeoGov, EdJoin, to have a direct link. And then finally, just getting out there. I think what Aaron and I are trying to do by going to these universities and job fairs is to get out there. So that's not a terribly sophisticated plan, but that's the plan right now as it is. Or I should say, as of last month, we're just kind of sticking to NeoGov and EdJoin and posting on our website. We're definitely looking to expand on all 3 of those fronts so that we have a more of a dent or a more proactive approach rather than a reactive approach.
Got it. Thank you.
Could I just follow up on that real quick, Mr.
Please.
Chairman? What I would suggest sometime in the future, this is a long range issue as opposed to, something that's going to be, solved or whatever quickly. But I'd be really interested in sort of maybe as a special call meeting or maybe not, but as an agenda item, to have a really kind of robust discussion and presentation about our recruitment efforts, and, you know, sort of invite other stakeholders, the union, in the district, employees, maybe even community members, maybe Berkeley City College, maybe what is it called, CSU of the East Bay, you know, about, you know, and we have all sorts of sort of cradle to career or school to career efforts that and maybe we can work with Berkeley High and other places. And I'm just, you know, brainstorming here, but I think it'd be really useful to have kind of a full-blown discussion about recruitment and, you know, maybe develop some kind of a work plan or something like that. Thank you.
I think it's a great idea. We can make it part of the special meeting again. If we have one special meeting, we get to those two items. On that point, it just occurred to me, Mildred was kind enough to invite us to a fair. Aaron went on our behalf. I got called at the last minute to do something else, unfortunately, but those types of, oh, is this something I said? Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's on a timer.
Motion sensor. Oh, boy. I'll wave my hands as I speak. But those three bullet points I brought up earlier are kind of the 3-point plan. But of course, getting, you know, we don't know what we don't know yet, because I think we frankly got used to, not just us, but I think in general, everyone got used to just doing everything via social media. And as evidenced by that job fair we had maybe last month, you know, I had 11 people come talk to me. 11 doesn't sound like a large number, but if it results in having 2 or 3 people that we end up hiring, or one of the 11, it's worth it, right? So I will, well, the staff is here, so they're hearing it. So we will have the feedback session for the class and comp from union and employees, and we will have recruitment feedback strategy, both items on the next special agenda meeting, whenever we
Sounds good.
schedule that.
The only thing I would say is don't rush yourselves. Yeah, my personal opinion that I think this kind of thing does require a fair amount of advanced planning and inviting, you know, interested parties and that sort of thing. So it might be something I didn't mean at all to rush you in any way.
Oh, no, I know. I appreciate that. I mean, I was thinking August, because I think, you know, the summertime is a good time for us to experiment. Like I said, part of having a successful strategy is knowing what we don't know.
Yeah.
The Merit Roll project, I had all these ideas. Now it's obviously, we discussed yesterday, it shifts as you start to learn new things about a process. The recruitment strategy will be the same thing. We're going to try all these things, and then we'll be able to come back to you, I'd say August, with this worked, this didn't, this is where we're going.
And let me just say, I really do like that idea of really trying to connect with like BCC, connecting with the high school, trying to see if there's any way that we can, you know, get any kind of connections going on, or join in to connections. And I know that that BCC is already doing things to try to kind of have that pipeline.
Yes.
And so if there's already something built into that we could get into, that would be awesome.
Mhm.
All right.
At some point, maybe Erin will report out, but yeah, she went, and we plan to do that again.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Chairman, or not, Chairman, Commissioner Izzy, would you like to go through your questions before we? Yeah.
Sure. So let's see. I had a question about 7C, which is executive assistant to the board. Let me just turn to it. And I had 2 questions about that. One question is, I noticed on this one, and then also on 7 D, I think it was, that the list, the dates for the lists being established are April 13th, just a month earlier. And I was just wondering why those lists are April 13th rather than May 4th. And then my other question specifically for the executive assistant is I noticed that the eligibility for Rosalina Barrios expires June 1, 2023. So one question is, I'm wondering if this is an example of one that's already been filled. And so my question about it would be moot if it's been filled. If it hasn't been filled, then that she is number one on the promotional list. June 1, 2023 is just around the corner. So are efforts being made in that regard? And I see Aaron has some thoughts.
Yes, so regarding the dates, that is actually a typo. I apologize. That was meant to be the established date was supposed to be for this May meeting. We intended it to go to the April meeting, but we didn't get everything together in time. So we're bringing it to the May meeting. So we'll make updates to the packets and to the lists after this meeting. And then as far as the executive assistants of the board list, this was actually a recruitment that we participated in because there was a need for a limited term assignment. So there was not a vacancy and it was due to the employee being on leave. So we were asked to post it to get the list established. But yes, that person, the two candidates with the asterisks will be their eligibility date will be expiring June 1st, and that's not changing.
I see. Okay, thank you. But there's no current vacancy.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Just following up on that, just to understand something, when we are putting together a pool for a limited term assignment, the rankings still apply or no?
Not really, not in the same way that they would to fill a vacancy. So generally what we do when we get a list established, we will actually send all of the eligibles to a hiring authority, or we might just call on those candidates ourselves to find out if they're ready, willing, or available to take on a limited term assignment. Sometimes, often we find that they are not. So we call on everybody for the limited term assignment.
Okay. Would there be a way in the future that if we were running a recruitment for something other than a vacancy, to somehow flag that, just building a pool versus the vacancy, or is there something already on here that helps me understand that?
So we do that on the posting side. So when I post a recruitment, I always indicate when I send out information to staff, whether it's to establish an eligibility list only, or whether it's to it's an open and promotional.
All right.
So we do that. But as far as when it comes to the meeting, it depends because, we're approving or we're asking the commission to approve the list, but at that point there could be a vacancy, or we need limited term assignments and we need, to fill the regular positions from the same list. So it's hard to know at that point what the list is going to be used for. It's basically going to be used for both, and every list is used for both.
Okay. And maybe we could consider, as we do consent items, our section 7 most of the time in the future, maybe ordering things that are meant for vacancies to come first, and then, just break it up into two sections. And the reason I ask this is sometimes I hear from members of the public, and this would help me understand, what are we doing really?
So we could do that, but it would only be accurate on the day that it is brought forward to,
True.
because in a week that could all change. Or even by the time I post it, that could change too. We could get a vacancy, or we no longer need a limited term assignment. So,
Interesting.
everything changes day by day.
Sometimes hour by hour.
All right, fair enough then. All right, then I'll withdraw it. Let's just leave it alone here and maybe I'll just call you if I have questions.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I had just a couple other questions. I don't know if.
I don't have anything else.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that I understand what's going on when I look at Secretary's report about who was hired versus lists that I see. So I'll give an example. In the report from the Secretary, we hired LaMonica Williams in an instructional assistant to SPED role. When I look at the IA2 SPED list, I don't see that name on here. So I'm confused.
She was from the previous list. Because we're putting this, sorry. You know, for the IA speds, we're turning the list around every 6 weeks. She's from the previous list.
Got it. So she was hired. We moved forward anybody who was eligible from the previous list, which are the people with the stars. And then based on the most recent recruitment, we added
Yes.
some people.
It's
Okay.
just unusual because, you know, most of our lists, you know, they have the year duration, but because it's the SPED, and we remember we decided we would be very aggressive with that particular recruitment, we're turning those around every 6 weeks. So she got hired from the previous one.
Okay, got it. Okay, that explains. I think I had only one other question, and that was the last item. It was the I think the school safety officer. I see a date for the written exam. I don't see a date for the oral exam. And I don't know if that means we didn't do one or we just forgot to put in the date or what happened there.
I'll defer to Aaron. Aaron, do you have the?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. That's also a typo. There was definitely an oral exam date, and we will make sure to add that date to the list
Okay.
when it's
Great.
published.
Thank you. Sorry.
I like those dates because, as you know, I sort of keep a running assessment just of what our intervals are, you know, between the beginning of the written and the conclusion of, you know, whatever other testing we needed to do.
Mhm.
So, you know, when I look at this, for example, excluding the school safety officer, it was an average of 10.4 days, you know, doing the testing, which I think is just remarkable. And April was a short month. There were 15 working days in April.
Mhm.
So, you know, kudos to, you know, to staff for turning these things over
Thank you.
and getting it done as quickly as they can.
Thank you.
And I'm sure the school safety officer probably fell within that tolerance as well.
All right, any more questions on these consent items? Excellent. So then, given that we have answered the questions that were, that Commissioner Roeder and and Vice Chairperson Goldstein had, and we've also captured those places where there were typos that will be corrected. Can I have a motion to approve consent items 7B through K?
I so motion to approve consent items B through K with changes or corrections made to C, D, and K as we've discussed.
I second that.
And I agree. All right, we are now at agenda item 8, the conference item. So that's a step advance request. So Secretary Castillo, if you will.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. So Mr. Vasquez comes to us in an area of great need. Vasquez has the experience already, the practical experience, 2 years experience working in this similar class for Long Beach. You'll notice in the attachments, the very, very, very kind and great recommendation letter. I was reading this. I was like, boy, I would love to get a letter like this. It's great. So although he doesn't have, I didn't see a perfect fit in terms of the 5.5 years experience. I did count the 2 years, obviously, but I counted the many years he had working in the district as valuable, because I think it gave him what is now going to be invaluable experience working with our kids. And he has the degrees to match. And, you know, we want, you hear me say this every time, we want to recruit Lionel Vasquez as moving forward, you know, someone who's not just representative of the community he works in, but it's in an area of computers and IT. So that's even more important. So anyway, he gets my strongest recommendation. He requested a step 4. I'm supporting his request for step 4 placement. Thank you.
Any question from the commissioner?
Go ahead.
Well, I would only say I agree that I read the materials and the qualifications for Mr. Vasquez are excellent. And also, yes, the recommendation letter is fantastic. So I would support step 4 advanced placement as well.
I think I had 2 questions.
Sure.
One was, in your write-up, you talk about an advanced degree, and I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. What I saw was an associate's and a BS.
Well, yes, I may have used the word advanced inappropriately, but I meant it wasn't just the AA. He has the Bachelor's of Science as well. So
Got
that
it.
might have been my own.
Okay, no, I just
misappropriation
wanted
of
to make
the-
sure
yeah.
I wasn't missing anything
no,
in my package.
In addition, though, I will note, as long as you bring it up, that he has the certificates as well. in
Right,
addition to
and
the
I
degrees.
noted
Yeah.
that too,
yeah.
you know, so, right, no, that's a nice thing. Similarly, just because I'm curious, I saw a 1.5 years of direct computer experience, and it doesn't
Mhm.
change my belief that I think a step 4 is right. Just when I look at, you know, prevailing wages and
Mhm.
how to be competitive, I just wanted to make sure again, I wasn't missing anything.
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah, I counted the work in the school district. I do think that's valuable. You know, you may remember a couple of meetings ago, there was one person who had experience that was similar, but it was not in a school district. I think that working in the school district does prepare you to stay within a district. It's very unique. So
I
anyway.
agree.
Mhm.
And, you know, I 15 years of district experience in addition to a
Oh,
1.5
yeah.
years, you know, of straight, you know,
Very important.
very direct experience with this is very valuable. So,
Thank you.
got it.
And I don't have anything. Oh,
Did you want to say anything on your behalf? You can come up to the podium if you'd like. We are talking about you, so. That's why you couldn't find the button. Here you go.
Hello? Okay, there we go. Hello, commissioners and chairperson. Yeah, so my name is Lionel Vasquez, and I'm coming from Long Beach Unified School District. And well, it's in Long Beach, California. And yeah, I'm not sure what else to say, you know, besides what's written. I got a degree from Dominguez Hills in you know, in computer science. And yeah, my whole goal has been trying to stay in the public sector. I love it. You know, I came from originally, I was at a site called Lincoln Elementary, and I've been there since 2012, 2011, around there. So give or take like 12 years I was there, and we had a big, you know, same situation as you guys have here in Berkeley, Unified, where you guys are like all big on excellence and equity and and yeah, I have the same beliefs, and that's why one of the reasons why I wanted to come over here. You guys stand for all that and greatness that we had over there. So yeah, I thank you guys for having me here, and thank you for you guys' time. And I'm here for the long haul. So yeah, I'm not sure what else to say besides just wanting to have that step forward.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez.
Okay, Max Eisler, Director of Technology. Lionel, of course, works for our department. And I just want to say we're really happy to bring someone in who has not only the technology experience, the school district experience, which is really, really difficult to find. And especially after we've been trying to fill this job for a year now. And it has been so helpful that we were able to bring someone who could drop in and hit the ground running, because he does have the relevant experience that has really allowed him to just dive right into that job. So I just want to say that I'm fully in support of this, and I hope the commission considers it, and we're really happy to have Lionel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez, and welcome to the district. Thank you for choosing Berkeley Unified School District.
Thank you very much.
So I don't have, I can't add anything else that my colleague said. So now you go on to the work of the voting. So do I have a motion to approve the request for advanced step placement for Lionel Vasquez?
I'll move, yes, that we approve it step 4.
And I enthusiastically agree with that and second it.
And I enthusiastically agree.
Thank you. And thank you.
All right, so now we're gonna go to item 9 on the agenda, and that's the public hearing. We're gonna be speaking on the Personnel Commission budget. As some of you know, we addressed this in the last meeting, but now we want to, I think, vote on it. So Ms. Secretary Castillo.
No, I don't have anything to add. I will just highlight that the areas, the 2 areas that we are asking for are for additional staffing in the form of an admin 3 half-time 0.5. It's not just to help with the class and comp project, which Sarah is now assigned to, but it is to fill in all of the demand of the school district. The demand of the school district is such that we need more people. As you all know, we're coming into the building now. We're working directly with our customer base, which is the district employees. And the admin 3 gives us the versatility to assist not just myself, but everyone on the team. Someone who can write, someone who can fill in and draft, someone who can help with phones and clerical, someone who could even help with exams, frankly, if need be. And we're just trying to meet the demand of the district. I think that the old model of having folks either work and stay late or not go on vacation is not something that I want to condone moving forward. So it's really just to meet the district demand. In regards to the other increases, they're mostly focused on recruitment and a travel budget. And, you know, professional development, as you all know, is very important to me and my team. And we have the annual conference that I would love for more commissioners to come to. And obviously my staff need to be as up on everything as they can be in regards to exams and technology and even networking and expanding that. So really what you're looking at are very reasonable increases, very conservative, frankly. We've had additional increases in staff and HR and payroll and many facets of the district, and we just have to match that need. It basically boils down to being as simple as that. So if you have any questions, just.
I do, and it goes to your comments earlier about just the way that this role that we are bringing that we've brought on affects the workload of your office. And can you just kind of speak to just how having Sarah has really the changes that you've been able to see in terms of that workload and how everyone is being able to not maybe do the overtime and the working on weekends and missing vacation?
Well, the unfortunate thing is that the person who was staying late to do the minutes, for example, didn't get overtime. I'm looking in her direction. Or things like the exams and coming in extra days or filling in spots. Really, the contribution at this point, it started out with the class and comp. I soon started to realize that I could not be at two places at once. I can do school site visits with principals, and principals will tell you that we talk a lot more these days. And I could do site visits because I have someone who can tell me that someone needs to meet with you, or so-and-so needs this document, or, Aaron needs you to do such, so those responses would take sometimes when I get back to the office three days later or so. So really we're providing better customer service. We're more well-rounded. You'll notice the work product is better because we can dedicate more time to the jobs that we've been hired to do, other than filling in for folks or areas that we weren't. So really it's a consistent business model. And now you're seeing that with the addition of the position, the minutes, for example, the support to the commission directly, and the support to my person, Aaron, my top person, is invaluable because Aaron and I are freed up to do the strategic work, which results in better candidates, more recruitment, more strategy in regards to trying to solve the district problems, as opposed to, nose to the ground and typing things or creating exam products and things like that. So really that's the contribution. And we want to keep that moving forward. And I'm asking for a 0.5 and not a full time because I think we can make this work. So I'm being sensitive to the budget as well. My proposal is a reflection of the work we're doing, and we're all very busy, but I wanted it to reflect what the workload demand was. And a 0.5 is pushing it a bit, but it's a reasonable ask, and it will meet the demands, I believe.
Thank you. Commissioners?
I guess one comment and two questions. So the first, the comment is I'm supportive of this budget. And, since my tenure on the commission, I have seen from stakeholders, whether it's the union or the district, requests. For example, I think our commission is trying to get hiring authorities, supervisors, et cetera, to more closely follow the rules. And that's time consuming too. That's a change in culture, and that's education, and all of that is in the hands of our secretary and of our staff to accomplish. That's one thing. We hear oftentimes from the Board of Education and from people who have come both to us and to the Board of Education that we need to step up our recruitment. And we're trying to do that. That also requires resources. We're trying to accomplish, to say nothing of our rules revision process and things of that nature. So we're trying to accomplish some important tasks over the next few years. And those require resources. And I think we do need to provide the resources to adequately meet those requests. So that's my comment. My specific question, one specific question is on, I notice under applications, announcements, and copying, there's about a $10,000 increase. And I see that, recruiting and advertising is a separate line item, and that has a bit of an increase as well. I'm curious what, and maybe Mr. Castillo, you answered this at the last meeting and I just don't remember. What is that $10,000 increase for applications, announcements, and copying about? What occasion is that?
Well, part of it is the contract that we have with the copy machine, but like we rent them or lease them. So we had to move that. And there's one allocation, and I'm looking to Aaron, I don't remember which number it was, but there was one reallocation, which is really just putting the monetary line item where it belonged. I guess in the budgets previous to this, it wasn't where it was supposed to be. That said, there is a need now for more materials. And as much as we want to do things online, we're still not doing everything online, and our work is increased quite a bit. I think in terms of copying, I think that we're trying to still stay within the realm of doing most things online, but we have to rent out that machine that we use. We share it with HR, and we're using it a lot more. It's as simple as that. I wish it were a more sophisticated answer.
Of course, the only thing is I see that there's a separate line item for copier lease, which is
Oh.
an intra-fund transfer,
Yeah, sorry, that might be it.
and that's staying the same, 4,300. That's been the same for a long time. And the item that, if I remember correctly, that was moved was the commissioner fees, which were moved from being a separate line item to being moved to object code 4350, and that was $3,600. So I'm still scratching my head about the increase on applications, announcements, and copying.
So Aaron reminded me that some of this is increases due to NeoGov and our contract with them.
I'm thinking about something that we talked about at our special meeting yesterday. And that was when we looked at that requirement that said posting at site for positions. I'm just thinking of, what do we copy? We copy for that. We copy, presumably for panels, right, that are interviewing people.
Right.
And, if we are doing many more interviews, I'm kind of harking back to our report, for 2020. And just our volume of, recruiting and panels and interviews went up like almost 40% in that report, so I can see why, we might need an increase. I have no idea if 13.8 is correct, but, I'm also not going to worry, because on the base of the budget that we're asking for, it's a fairly modest percentage, so I'm not worrying
It
too
is
much about that.
for me, honestly, if it were to be cut slightly, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But even the brochures, the ones I printed out that I've given out are now outdated because you're the vice chair and you're the chair now. So, and those are hard copy. Some of the feedback that we've been getting, in anticipation of the feedback we've been getting and looking at solutions, the union BCCE in particular, they have been asking for more materials. They have been asking for more things that are not online. So the brochure
And I write that the reason for that is because not everyone
has a computer.
has, right, a district provided device.
Correct.
Which is why they're asking for paper.
Correct.
Right.
And this also falls in line with what we want to do in our plan for recruitment. Although we are going to be referring folks to our website, one of the things that I take with me is the brochure on the commission. If we're going to a college, I definitely want someone to take it with them so they understand that if they're working for Oakland or they're working for Berkeley, one has a personnel commission and one does not. And those brochures are still paper. Even though the paper ironically refers them back to our website, we still need to hand that. And again, answering the call, I believe it was Denise at the last meeting who stated that she would like to see more flyers and more things out at the school sites. So I imagine in anticipation of not reacting to a bill from HR, we want to be able to have that in our budget so we can do it.
I would also add that one of the things about this AB 1699 legislation, when you look into it, you'll see that one of its tenets says that districts would be obliged to provide on-the-job paid training to classified staff who express an interest in an open part-time position. And if we are going to continue to manage to not everyone having an electronic device here at the district, and if at some point in the future we have that overlay, I can totally see, we're going to find ourselves having a discussion, probably with the district, because I'm sure we're not the only entity that has this problem at BUSD. For anyone, who doesn't have a district device, it's, where's the crossover where it's finally worth giving everyone a tablet or something so that they can receive the information online and we can save trees and we can save copying costs and things. But I imagine we're not there yet.
And of course, we don't know at this point, we don't know if 1699 is going to get
Right.
approved or
Yeah.
adopted or signed by the governor, but be that as it may, we also don't know whether any additional costs like that would be borne by our budget at the Personnel Commission, or whether that's just a part of the district's
Right. No, there are a lot of ifs, but I can see that, rising waters, are going to float all boats on that.
And I do recall that when the subject of NeoGov came up and recruiting quite some time ago, maybe 6 months ago or so, you did express, and Aaron did too, the fact that this was going to cost more money, that it was a new platform or a different platform, and that it was more expensive. I guess what I'm asking, and you may not know the answer off the top of your head, is whether that comes out of this line item that's just above it, which is recruiting and advertising. Is NeoGov part of that, or is NeoGov part of the next line item? And Erin has her hand up.
Go ahead, yeah, please.
So that 5,800 line item, all of those professional consulting services come out of that same line item. But yes, NeoGov did increase their prices a lot. A lot of our vendors had like COVID holds on increasing their prices for a couple of years. And then this is like the first normal year. So all of our vendors have increased their prices. And then we purchased a separate hosting platform through NeoGov that was raised as well, and then a diversity package with careers in government. So, but all of our vendors have increased their prices probably by like 20%. So
Wow.
this is accounting for all
Thank
of
you.
that. Yeah.
And I recognize it's in the grand scheme of the budget, it's not a lot of money, but I'm sort of a budget person, so.
It's a fair question. For sure.
And then my other question, which I know I've brought up a couple of times, is, has this been discussed with the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services? Because at the last time we did the budget, the Assistant Superintendent came forward and had some issues. And it's like, well, gee, I wish you had talked to me a few months earlier. And we promised that we would engage with her on our budget, so it didn't come as a surprise. And so I'm curious as to, has there been any engagement? And if so, what's the nature of it?
So I submitted the position as part of the budget process. I have not had a follow-up conversation. I have sent emails, but I haven't received a invitation back. So no, I have not discussed it, but it hasn't been because I haven't, through my lack of trying.
So
And-
they are, I'm sorry, they are aware, the budget office, the budget process is aware that we are asking, or currently asking for half an additional FTE, and they haven't said no.
No, I've invited them to the first reading and as recent as yesterday to this reading. And again, in fairness, I did submit the position. I think I would imagine I would have had a discussion at that point when I submitted it because it's new. But no, I have not had any discussions.
Okay, thank you.
Chairperson, or Vice Chairperson Goldstein.
I think Commissioner Roeder asked all my questions also. I don't have any further questions.
All right, I see that Mildred has a question. Mildred?
Yes, I have some concerns regarding the budget and looking at it. I recall at the last meeting, Denise Diggs Ray was discussing that it'll be cheaper to use our own print shop that we have instead of sending, certain documents and things to the copier. So I would, like for us to look at that and for that to be considered. Also, this is not about anyone personally because, I like everyone. So this is not anything personal what I'm getting ready to say. But what I am concerned about, and I'm trying to be very careful how I say this, is that we have 142 classified vacancies. 142 classified vacancies to date. And with us having 142 classified vacancies to date, we just received this report from Malika on May 1st. And I'm actually looking through all of these vacancies. And with us having these vacancies, we're sitting up here talking about creating a 0.5 position for the commission. And I'm just concerned about that again, because the position of the director used to be a dual position when Patty Dwell and Randy Perez, if I'm not mistaken is his last name, was in that position. That position is no longer a dual position. So I'm not understanding all this extra work to where we need another 0.5. And I want to be corrected because I don't know if I heard an admin 3 being created at a step 5. Did I hear that correctly? An admin 3 brought in as a step 5?
No.
No.
Oh, okay, great. I'm sorry. I'm just taking notes and I thought that I heard that. I apologize. So I'm concerned about the 0.5 position being created. I know we have 1.5 position, and then I know we have Brian, we have Aaron, and I'm just not seeing where all this extra work is coming from because again, I'm a repeat. We have 142 classified vacancies. So I would just, like for us to just take a closer look at the need and what's really going on, because again, this money comes from the general fund. And as I stated before, there is a need in that admissions department that we have completely overlooked. Thank you.
Thank you, Mildred. And I'm just gonna say, I don't think that we've overlooked any positions, but I will say that just having seen the work that Charlie's team does, I think that one of the great examples of a well-run machine is making people think that it doesn't take as much as it does. And so, you know, from the outside, it might look like, you know, there might not be a need for this 0.5. But again, seeing the work that this team does, we definitely need a 0.5. It's definitely, I think, eased up a lot of stress in places. And again, I, you know, give kudos to Charlie and his team for being able to make it look less of a stress than it has actually has been. And so again, you know, I recognize that, you know, being on the outside looking in, you may not see where those gaps are and the stress that it brings on to the people doing that work, but it certainly is there. And we've seen that just having Sarah for this class and comps period has really made a difference. Not that, you know, it means that they're working any less, but it means that they're working more efficiently because there's less overwork that needs to be done because there is support there. So, you know, again, I understand not knowing all the ins and outs of what they do and, you know, not being able to see why this additional person would be a benefit. But I think that, you know, from my perspective and, you know, vice chairperson, commissioner, you can agree or disagree. I think that it is a much needed and much welcomed position.
Thank you. And can I add one thing? This isn't opinion, this is just fact. In 2022, we established 86 lists. There were 45 lists in 21 and 68 in 2020. That's just production. So, I mean.
Maybe I'll just add on with that as well. I am glad that Commissioner Roeder asked his question about the CBO's office because I fully expect there will be pushback. I would guess if they haven't responded to your emails, it's because they've been busy with other stuff. So I imagine we are going to have the opportunity again, you know, to discuss before this certified budget goes to Alameda County. What I'll say is I support this budget. I think it's reasonable and rational, especially if there are 142 unfilled classified vacancies. Let's not assume it's because they haven't been recruited for. There are a lot of standing issues about why positions stay vacant at school districts. And I don't think BUSD is any exception to that. What we know is people are leaving working at schools. Teachers are leaving, staff is leaving. The competition is really fierce. It's going to be a lot harder to get staff. If we don't compete, we won't get people. And 142 will go up. And it'll make everybody's life in the classified service worse because everyone's going to have a job and a half, you know, more than they do already. So I'm prepared to support this budget, and I'm prepared to support whatever friction you might get from the CBO before May 31st.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I agree wholeheartedly with what you said about the office and the needs that we have, and I agree with what Vice Chairperson Goldstein just said as well. And to address the point that Mildred made, which is a good one, I think, about 142 vacancies. Now I have, you know, I haven't audited that number. I'm going on faith that that's a correct number and that these are budgeted positions that sit vacant. I think, to my mind, that's actually an argument for more resources and not fewer resources, because in order to fill those 142 vacancies or any part of them, to the extent they require new eligibility lists, That's recruitment. That's what we do. And and that costs money to the extent that it requires that supervisors start hiring off of those eligibility lists and not have temporary placements. That requires education. That requires our rules project. That requires, again, resources to accomplish that. And these are all goals, I think, that all of us as commissioners and Mr. Castillo and staff have for this upcoming year and beyond. So I too, I support this budget. I think it's needed.
Thank you, Commissioner Roder. Thank you, Vice Chairman Goldstein. Mildred, you had a comment?
Okay, thank you. I appreciate all of your comments, but I would like to be clear because maybe I wasn't. I'm more on the inside than I'm on the outside. I want to be clear about that because I'm 30 years inside to see what is going on. And before, and just to give a little bit of history, because again, and let me say this, Sarah, this is not about Sarah. Sarah is awesome. I've sent her emails, giving her kudos because she's always on time. She's very responsive. I mean, she is awesome. So this has absolutely nothing to do with Sarah because you mentioned her name, President Tim. It's not about the person. I'm talking about the position clearly. Prior, we had an admin 3, an admin 2, and a clerical assistant 3, and a director who worked and kept all lists updated on a regular basis and worked the comp study. So again, that's why I'm concerned about the 0.5. And it's not that I'm trying to say that there aren't things that needs to be done. There's a lot that needs to be done, but I'm not sure that another 0.5 position, because if that's the case, then there's another position that's a 0.5, then it seems to me like you'll make that position a 1.0 and not hire another 0.5 to where we have 2.5. You could just raise the other 0.5 to a 1.0. I don't know if that was, considered, but I am offended by you, Tim, saying that I'm on the outside, because I'm very much in the inside. I'm very much aware, and I'm very knowledgeable about the commission and what goes on within our district. I'm not 30 years in to know nothing.
So let me just clarify. So first, I only mentioned Sarah just because Sarah is in the role right now. So it was not saying anything that alluding to anyone saying anything about Sarah. And two, it was a term of phrase, outside looking in. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination calling you an outsider to the district. I know that you've been in the district for some years. I'm only making the point that not being directly involved in the work of others can sometimes make us not see the depth of the work those people are doing. That's the only point that I was making there. All right. Any other comments? Any other questions? All right. So then I guess we go about the business of voting. Do I have a motion to approve this budget?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the budget that is presented for the 23-24 school year for the Personnel Commission.
And I enthusiastically second.
And I agree.
Thank you.
All right, so now we will move to item 10 on the agenda, and that is public comments. We have 15 minutes for public comments. So if you have a public comment, now is your chance. Please raise your hand and we will call on you. All right, Miss Mildred.
Thank you. I want to enthusiastically speak on the classification study. because on April 21st, I had sent an email to Secretary Castillo to let him know that there are concerns that the union have regarding the process. I do understand that we voted on the process and we discussed the process, but actually right now the process is a concern. And I know we were to send our concerns to Jan, in which I still told Secretary Castillo that I had concerns with sending those concerns to Jan. I had many employees that were in phase one that went through interviews that didn't walk away from those interviews feeling confident about the process, that just wasn't comfortable within their interview. And then just today, because I know that there are letters that went out regarding the job descriptions and people that are getting ready to experience phase two, just today I received 9 phone calls. I received 3 emails and I received many texts. We did have a membership meeting that was April 15th, where I was encouraging people to participate in the process, because I do realize that there wasn't much of a participation in the first phase. But actually looking now at just the ways looking at the way phase one has gone, having the opportunity of, we're going through the job descriptions right now. And I'm just really concerned because I'm starting to feel and see exactly what our members are concerned about with filling out the questionnaire and then having things that they're putting in their questionnaire added to their job description. And I heard Secretary Castillo, and I am aware that the compensation part comes at the very end, but it's a concern. And then we're looking at the job description that was actually emailed to some of the members today. It says on there 2016. So it's confusing because is it the job description, the old job description, or is it the new job description that you're recommending, but you still have the 2016 date on the job description? So there's just, there's a lot of concerns. And I'm, just letting you know just where we are, where the union stands right now, as far as the classification study. I'm not confident in the process. And the recommendation or the email that I had sent to Charlie is that I wanted to, hopefully that we'll have a meeting in May with the steering committee to talk about these concerns as a committee. Because let's just be clear, the committee is already comprised of managers and supervisors. And I think there's only 2 people or 3 people that's on the committee that's not a manager or a supervisor, which is, myself, Jocelyn, and Denise Diggs-Ray. So also that in the job descriptions, because I recall asking Jan the recommendations that she put in the job descriptions, where did she get them from? Because I can tell that some of the recommendations that's in the job description came from the supervisor. So I'm just giving you guys just some information and just letting you kind of know just some information about where we are and what our feelings are about the classification study. I do understand that there is a time where it will have to be negotiated with the union, but it's just a concern. And I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mildred. Do we have anyone else for public comment?
May I make one?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Based on our very robust discussion about the class and comp study, and then, Mildred's other comments here, and just everything I know about how these processes work, and, and what I know about how it worked a decade ago, which was the last time BUSD did it. I am that much more enthusiastic about, timely scheduling a special meeting where we hear from folks, because, this is the nature of the beast. It really is. And, the very best thing you can do is put it all out on the table, so that if there are misconceptions about, what's the recommendation and, when does it get conferred on, we have that. If we feel like there are problems, with people participating, we have a way of getting at it, early, to counterbalance and try to make sure our overall participation is as good as it can be.
On that, Vice Chairperson, do we want to try to schedule something this month?
You bet.
Can we try? If we're gonna have the public, we are very limited in room 126.
Mhm.
So, we're gonna do our best. Maybe we can discuss dates.
In our
and-
next item.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay, were you?
That's all. Yeah.
All
thank
right,
you.
Frank.
Yeah, I just want to speak on promotions. I noticed there's 9 new promotions on these lists that you just put out today. You know, these promotions, they don't take very long to get them into those positions because they're already embedded into the district. And, you know, what I've seen over the years is that the admins sit on these lists when they have, you know, classified that they could promote, and those promotions could literally take a few days to get them into those positions. I know the Personnel Commission can't make that call on who to hire, but they can, you know, kind of enforce the process that these admins can't sit on these lists and not hire anyone. If you give them a list and they're just sitting on it, they should be hiring somebody from that list. And when we have people that are being promoted, you know, we should encourage them to promote. And if we're trying to bring new people into the district, that's, you know, that's the easiest way to encourage people to come here and work, is that you have a chance to get promoted. And I've seen it over and over again where our admins, that they'll put in somebody from the outside. And I guarantee you right now, and I'll refer to the merit rules 70.400.2 payroll audit. Don't know if the personnel director has done a payroll audit. I would encourage him to do so and see who's sitting in these positions who's not even on a list. And when we have a list and we have people who are trying to get promoted and nothing's happening for months, years, I've literally seen it in my own department where we have promotion, people want to get promoted and they sit there for a year before they make a move. And that's just, it's not acceptable. If we want to bring people into the district, you know, I encourage people to go for promotions, and I think everybody should be encouraging people to come in here and with the ideal of that they could actually get promoted and move forward. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. All
Can I
right,
make one?
yes.
I just, well, as often happens, I completely agree with what Mr. Hernandez has just said. I think as an institution, absolutely having we talked about pipelines, but having a sort of an advancement pipeline where you can start working here at the district at one level and then have an opportunity to, through both your own diligence and through development and through applying for vacancies when they occur, to move up in that on that pipeline, I think is tremendous and is something that we need to encourage. And I think we've talked about this idea of there are vacancies and the vacancies aren't being filled and we don't know why they're not being filled. And my guess is that there are multiple reasons in multiple different departments that may not be the same. So once again, since we're talking about special call meetings, I think we should devote, we're talking about devoting a meeting to recruitment. I think we should also devote, and I know our vice chairperson has taken this issue very seriously. We should devote a meeting to filling vacancies and what's the process, how that's being done. And it would not be acceptable to me to not have someone from the district who's knowledgeable about this to address the issue and to come up with a work plan of what are we going to do about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Roeder. And I think, yeah, and again, we keep coming back to the question of, you know, we have these lists. people aren't pulling for this from the list. And so as Frank said, then, you know, it winds up going on for years or somebody else gets put into it when there were people that were on the list that were you know, qualified to be there. So yeah, I mean, I think that's probably one that we should give special attention to. All right, so we are now going to close public comment. And we're going to go to item 11 on the agenda, which is our next meeting. And so we want to spend some time trying to schedule some special meetings as along with our next meeting.
So if I understand the request from the commission correctly, there seem to be two agenda items. One is the district administration hiring in a reasonable manner, not having these lists just lag. So we're going to need someone from the district there. And we're going to need whoever else needs to attend. So it would be a matter of not just us agreeing to a date, but I would imagine, you know, I can ask Samantha. I think that Samantha would also frankly want backup, you know, maybe someone else, maybe Debbie Dean or Jill Hugendijk or someone who can, you know, how do we get the principals to hire folks kind of thing? If we're going to make it substantive, that would be my recommendation. On the second agenda item.
Can I actually
Sure.
ask something that we
course.
also do is prep prior to a meeting like that, which is to share the list of the vacancies,
Okay.
you know, so that we understand, you know, in terms of classes and categories, you know, are there any patterns? Okay, because, you know, I think the other thing the pattern could be Emerson School never hires everybody, or the pattern can be, we're just not hiring school safety officers. And I think there's some value in trying to focus our efforts on the biggest payoff issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I would just add one more thing to that, which is to have a clear understanding of what are the rules.
Yeah.
You know, what is a hiring manager supposed to do when there's a list with respect to promotional candidates, with respect to open candidates? How are they treated? Limited term, temporary? These are all complicated. I mean, we happen to know because we've dived into the rules. These are complicated subjects controlled oftentimes by the education code. And so I, for one, want to know what those rules are.
Is your question, what are the ed code rules, or what instructions does the commission give when they send the list?
Both.
Yeah, I think probably we need both.
Well, I mean, while we're on this topic, Frank is not wrong about the rules. The problem has not been my reaching out to administrators. That's not lacking, or the constant communication. Where it falls apart is when the administrator does not feel that they need to do what I'm asking. I mean, elephant in the room, that's what's happening.
Right.
It doesn't happen often, I will be fair. But it happens often enough, obviously, that we do have delays in some of our recruitments. It's gotten better, I believe, but we still have issues with folks who are not hiring when they get the list.
And I think a breakout, you know, will help us with that. You know, if it's not too onerous, what would also be really nice if we're building a spreadsheet is to understand when the vacancy first occurred. You know, so are we looking at a vacancy, you know, that happened April 15th as compared to a vacancy that happened September 22nd, right? Because that points to a different problem also. So something that just gives us a little advance info, you know, for whenever we convene to talk about, you know, examining what's the story with filling vacancies and what can we do to, you know, hasten that.
So before we schedule, let me just clearly off the top of my head, just look at logistics. I mean, Aaron and I are going to have to meet. We may have to meet with the exam unit as well. Aaron and I are going to have to do some analysis on the postings and the hire date. And, so there's a lot of data crunching on our end
Mhm.
if we're going to produce a report. It goes without saying that our report won't include the site version of things, the school site. We're just going to be able to tell you when we have the list and when we sent it and when they were hired. Once we have that information, I think it's fair to say that we'd be able to produce a report for you. Then again, logistically, we are going to have to put the invitations out on who the stakeholders are and then check their availability. So given all that, I would definitely recommend erring on the side of on the later side of this month or the early side of next month, just to allow a couple weeks for us to get this done.
I agree in part just because the school schedule is, right now is a busy time
Yeah.
with offers to staff and trying to backfill students, moving them through the rest of the school year. June will be a lot quieter in theory, I guess at least, right?
Yes, sort of.
Right, right. Where folks could do that. And I think as I prioritize these special meeting topics, I think really the most time specific one is the class and comp
Yeah.
study. So I would prioritize that one first. And then, the deep dive, I would prioritize as third, so I don't know how you all feel about
I
that.
agree.
Are you saying that the three are the additional one is recruitment?
Right. We talked about 3 different special meeting topics, and I think we would be well served to do the class and comp first
Right.
in May. If we can get a discussion about the vacancies that we have going in June, really before everybody disappears. I don't think one meeting is going to solve everything, but I think it will bring to light the areas where we can ask, what's your plan? And then, come back in late July or August, to understand that. And then the recruiting, what are good recruiting things? We're going to have this issue in front of us for a long time. So that's the one I would do third.
Third, yeah, I totally agree with that order.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, just to make sure, class and comp May, staffing June, and then recruitment August. And I suggest August just because I'd like the summer for Aaron and I to see what, summer is actually a big recruitment time for us. We get, so does that work for everyone?
Sure. I'm going
Regard,
to say that for May, it's a special meeting in May for me is gonna have to happen closer to the end of the month.
okay. Is that amenable to the other commissioners? Can we look at calendars now?
I'm looking now, and the 22nd, the 23rd are good, 24th through the Memorial Weekend is not, 30th and 31st are okay for me.
So if I heard you correctly, 22nd, 23rd, 30th, and 31st.
Right.
For me, the only dates that I cannot do it would be the 22nd and the 30th.
Okay. So that now leaves us with the 23rd and the 31st. Tim, do either the 23rd or 31st work for you?
I would prefer the 31st.
Okay, so all 3 of you can do the 31st. Okay, well, I know you won't have an answer right now, but we at least have the 31st as a date that seems to work for the commissioners. Do we want a 2-hour meeting, 4:30 to 6:30, or, okay,
That sounds
it might make sense 4 to 6, only because if we're going to ask employees that are not in my unit, we may want to do earlier in the day so that the union employees and
Yeah, I can do 4,
maybe
So-
4 to 6.
4 to 6.
Okay. Yeah, we'll try. We'll do our best. So the constituents at this meeting, I believe, are the union, representation from the steering committee and the class and comp group, Jan or Rick. Does that sound like the invitees are the correct ones?
Tell me again, from the union, this would be BCC.
BCCE,
Right?
yeah, and then some representation from the steering committee and Jan or someone on her team. Am I missing anyone? Does that sound right? Okay. Yes, that's what we'd recommend.
I think I'd also ask HR.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, I will make, so Samantha and Glenda are both on the steering committee. So I'll invite them as part of the group, or should I invite them separately?
Well, we kind of want the maximum coverage,
Okay,
right?
okay,
So
okay.
however we get the max
I'll include HR
coverage.
as a
Yeah.
separate entity. Okay, I got it.
You know, and I agree with that. I think in particular, I think that Samantha, for example, could address the issues of meet and confer and just what are the collective bargaining implications. Those don't affect us directly as the Personnel Commission, but there are obviously concerns that in particular the union has, and so that could be addressed at that time. If she's here with us.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it is after the Memorial Day weekend, so
Correct.
it might work out. So
Mhm.
we'll try for the 31st.
All right, so then we have tentatively the 31st for our special meeting on the class and comps. And then our next regular meeting will be June 8th.
Is it June 8th or June 1?
We have June
June.
1st.
June 1. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
It's the last,
June 1.
before, after July, we do the last Wednesday, but I think that meeting is still like, yeah.
All right, so tentatively May 31st, and then our regular meeting, June 1st.
And do we think we can try to queue up a date for the examining filling vacancies?
Yes, and I think we should try to do it on I mean, I would want to do it maybe possibly the week after, because we start to lose administrators after the second week of June.
Right.
And I would definitely want, you know, some of the managerial presence on the district side to speak to the decisions and the process. And
So like that week of the 5th, June 5th.
So I'm
we can
going to
try
have
June
a
5th.
tough time because I'm going to be out of town between the 8th and the 16th.
Okay,
Then we're looking at 5, 6, 7.
So, yeah, 5, I've got something going on. Well, yeah, I have a call that I have to do on June 5th at 3:30.
Mhm.
But if we started a little bit later, that would be okay. 4:30 would be okay.
on the
You can
5th,
make it.
4:30. That's the Monday.
Mhm.
Okay. Let me try. Okay,
Oops, somebody get up and run around.
You know, yeah.
We're here
There
in
we
the
go,
dark.
there we go.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Charlie. June 5th is not going to work in the afternoon because that's our audit committee is meeting on that day
okay.
unless it gets changed. But
So
the
6, 7,
6th and 7th are okay if we need to do it.
does that work for you too?
Should we try for the 6th or 7th?
Let's do, I can do the 7th.
Okay,
6, 7, 4 to 6, same sort of thing.
I think we're doing the 7th for the 6th,
Oh, I'm sorry. Right, June 7th.
June
right,
7th.
Right,
Yeah,
4 to 6.
you were saying 6, 7, like June.
Right,
Yeah, I
no,
got you.
realized that
Yeah.
didn't Come
yeah.
through, right?
And just to review constituencies, because we're gonna have to coordinate. We want someone from district administration. And do we want to invite BCCE or 21 again? Or is this really mostly a conversation or a meeting specifically about the lag in the hiring and how we can expedite or facilitate faster hiring?
I think very first, what we want to find out is we want to understand based on whatever data you give, why do we have patterns?
Okay.
And who can help with them? So I liked your idea of Debbie or Jan,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Facing site administrators, right?
Yeah.
HR, obviously for, district level staff,
You meant Debbie or Jill? You said Jan.
right?
Jill.
Sorry.
No,
meant
I just
Jill,
want to be,
right.
I just want to
Yeah.
be sure I have the
Yeah,
right person.
Right. No, we don't need Jan for this.
Okay.
And, I think it's a public meeting. Of course, the unions could come,
Mhm.
but I think the first layer of understanding why do we have the patterns actually is going to sit with those folks.
Okay. And- and-
I have to respectfully dissent from that.
Mhm.
I think that we should specifically invite BCCE representative to take part. It's their concerns. They're there on the ground. They understand the issues, and their perspective is going to be different from the perspective of the district and district staff.
Mhm.
So I'd like to hear we don't want to have this is going to be up to you, Mr. Chairperson. We don't want to have a free-for-all shouting match, but I think, having an orderly discussion
Mm.
so that we can understand all the different viewpoints.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think it's important.
It's probably better to have all the stakeholders at the table. And so that way, the communication is open. Everyone hears what everyone else has to say, and, we.
I'll be sure to invite both unions and unrepresented. I'll reach out to some of the represented folks that we deal with a lot and
Okay.
invite them as well.
Just out of curiosity, is it an issue with the unrepresented? I mean, are the unrepresented have lists that are just being sat on? I haven't heard about that, but
I don't think so, but I don't assume to know one way or the other. As
Hmm.
long as I'm
Well,
inviting all
maybe
the
as-
stakeholders, I'm going to definitely invite
maybe
them.
as part of your review, you'll be able to determine if it's an issue. If it's not an issue, then
Yeah.
it seems to me anyway, we don't need that group in particular. to
Yeah.
be-
But I'll look into it. I mean, once the report comes back, we may
Yeah.
want to. And I would definitely recommend, I know we mentioned Debbie and Jill, but I would definitely want to talk to Samantha in HR to make sure that she's invited as well.
Right. No,
Okay.
they're a constituent.
Okay.
And I think for this, what we are talking about is pre-work, if
Mhm,
you will,
mhm.
is, something that breaks out the 142 vacancies that sit in BCCE. I guess there are many fewer in local 21. What the ed code requirements, what the ed code says about, the hiring cadence, and then what instructions actually the commission gives
Mhm.
And I would
I
just
think
add, sorry.
would be good to look at.
And I would just add to that, in addition to the ed code, what do our current merit rules say about it? And what does the collective bargaining agreements say about it, if anything?
Okay.
Are we okay to hold off on the August meeting? Just tentatively now, we know it'll be in August, but we can maybe
Work on that. and-
work on that and come back to you on it with a proposed date once Aaron and I meet.
Right.
I
Okay.
think you have plenty on your plate.
Yes, definitely.
All right, so I think that does it. So we have our meeting, so we have May 31st tentatively.
Yes.
June 1st, our regular meeting, and then June 7th,
Yes, correct.
our special meeting, for the,
Staffing.
for staffing.
Yes.
Mhm.
All right, excellent.
Okay.
All right, anything else from,
I think you're up to item 12.
I'm up to item 12. We are adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
Sweet.